The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
And live.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Tuesday, January 21st. And today is National Hyaluronic Acid Day, Todd.
Well, that's important.
That's important. You know what I mean? That's extremely important. You know what I mean? It's also National Granola Bar Day, Todd.
Well, you know, everyone likes a good granola bar.
Everyone loves granola. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's also oh, you're gonna love this. This is probably my favorite day right now. It's also Squirrel Appreciation Day.
That's funny.
I mean,
you got to appreciate a squirrel who goes after the nuts.
Exactly. Everyone's trying to get a nut nowadays. Exactly right, Todd. Yeah. See, exactly right. Exactly right. And it's also National Hugging Day, Todd.
Oh, well, I will give you a virtual hug, my friend.
Virtual hug. I'm down with that. Look at that. Look at that. Bringing people together. Amazing. Right. Amazing. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are going to kick off today's show with the golden voice himself. That's right, Mr. Todd Denkin. He's the founder of DigiPath Labs out there in the great silver state of Nevada. And DigiPath is in a couple other states as well. He's also the founder of the Smuggleverse, where you can buy all of your digital dank no matter what state you're in. That's right, it is the golden voice himself, Mr. Todd Denkin.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody out there with this fake applause. Appreciate it. I'm going to let it run for a minute.
It is not fake, bro. Those applause are real.
Hey, well, for the real applause that I'm giving myself. Good Tuesday morning to you on this Taco Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I have news out of New Mexico as the U.S. Border Agency urges the court to dismiss New Mexico marijuana businesses lawsuit. Oh, God, my teleprompter's freaking out.
Oh, boy.
U.S. agency urges court to dismiss New Mexico marijuana businesses lawsuit over seizures of state legal products because federal law prevails. That's right. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection are urging a federal court to dismiss a lawsuit from licensed New Mexico marijuana businesses who claim the agencies have been unconstitutionally seizing state-regulated marijuana products and detaining industry workers at interior checkpoints. Federal agencies' core argument is that as long as marijuana remains federally prohibited, border agents are within their statutory right to disregard state law and seize the property. And that the limited protections that states with marijuana program enjoy under a congressional rider and General Justice Department discretionary policies do not apply to CBP, which falls under DHS. Representatives of 8 New Mexico marijuana businesses jointly filed a lawsuit against the federal government last October, the U.S. District Court for the District of New Mexico. That action came months after initial reports emerged of CBP agents increasingly taking cannabis products and other assets from state licensees at border checkpoints throughout the state. Plaintiffs are arguing that CBP actions without due process violate protections against unlawful searches and seizures guaranteed under the Fifth Amendment. CBP is contesting the challenge and moving forward for a dismissal of a quote, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted, as well as, quote, lack of subject matter jurisdiction, unquote. Their primary contention is that since marijuana has been legalized as a matter of state law in New Mexico, summarily, seizing it deprives them of their state-created property rights in marijuana without due process of law, the filing first reported by Law 360 says. Marijuana is currently a Schedule I controlled substance under federal law. And continuing the quote, the federal drug laws expressly extinguish property rights in Schedule I controlled substances, and they further provide that such substances are contraband, subject to summary forfeiture. It is axiomatic that the extent federal law conflicts with state law and federal law prevails. CBP also made a series of more nuanced challenges to certain allegations, including their complaint about the seizure of non-cannabis assets such as cash and vehicles they used to transport the marijuana. The agency said the vehicle issue was moot because they were already returned to plaintiffs before this action was filed. The plaintiffs lack standing to seek relief stemming from seizures of those vehicles. The agencies further addressed the cannabis business's argument about how their actions seemingly conflict with certain federal laws and discretionary precedent. They note, for example, that a long-standing congressional appropriations rider protecting medical cannabis states from federal intervention is only applicable to the Department of Justice and not DHS or its component agencies like CBP. Beyond that, the government contested plaintiffs' arguments that the federal government's, quote, hands-off approach to state-level marijuana reform was relevant to the case at hand. The agency simply said that regardless of the past DOJ and Treasury Department guidance or informal policy, there's nothing codified in law that bars DHS and CBP from continuing to enforce federal prohibition. Agents who encounter subjects in possession of marijuana in violation of federal law, based on a test identifying the substance as marijuana and not hemp, maintain appropriate enforcement authority, the government said. They added, here, even though New Mexico law may create property interest in plaintiffs' marijuana cognizable under state law, marijuana remains contraband under federal law. Given that the lack of cognizable property interest in their marijuana under federal statute, the businesses were entitled to additional processes in connection with its seizure and forfeiture. DHS and CBP stressed throughout the filing that marijuana remains a Schedule I drug under the Controlled Substance Act, and while the agencies acknowledge that the Drug Enforcement Administration is currently considering rescheduling marijuana under the CSA, it remains the case that no reclassification has occurred to date. And to that point, the rescheduling process was recently delayed after a DEA judge granted an appeal in the administrative hearing process. In the original lawsuit, the cannabis businesses also detailed multiple CBP encounters where employees were detained at a time for hours on end without being charged with any specific crimes. The agency didn't address the nature of the detainments. It simply maintained its legal authority to hold the workers. The plaintiffs also asked the court to compel CBP to provide documents on property the agency seized, return the property or compensation equal to the value of the products to the plaintiffs, and also set out process to challenge any future seizures in accordance with due process clause of the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Controversy also caught the attention of certain congressional lawmakers. For example, Representative Gabe Vasquez, a Democrat from New Mexico, sought to amend appropriations legislation covering DHS by explicitly preventing U.S. Border Patrol agents from using funds to seize marijuana from state-licensed businesses. Last April, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, also a Democrat, could be heard saying on a leaked recording that she was, quote, offended unquote, when the Secretary of DHS reacted to her concern about the recent surge of CBP seizures of marijuana from legal operators in her state by saying, quote, "Who cares? They make a lot of money," unquote. The governor also said on the call that CBP officials are trying to justify the interdictions of marijuana from state legal businesses at interior checkpoints, primarily around the Las Cruces area, as a necessary consequence of seizing illicit fentanyl. However, as industry stakeholders have pointed out, the spike in cannabis seizures seems to be largely isolated to Mexico, even though other states like Arizona and California also have legal cannabis operators near the Mexico border. I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News. And Jay, what do you think about these illegal seizures of cannabis products, cannabis tools, cars, cash,
Well, that's the
and
whole
everything else
that's
that they are seizing?
That's the whole thing, is they're not necessarily illegal. Technically, they're not illegal, so they're not out of their bounds to seize this stuff. But it is impractical to have state laws that say one thing and then have the Border Patrol facing, adhering to another set of rules. And I wish there could be some collusion between the two, so to say. But
you would think that the right hand would talk to the left hand and try to figure this out, right?
Yeah, and even if I think a simple solution is just for them to have a hands-off policy when the policy disassociates with a state law. I mean, you even see this in a lot of border apprehensions where these different state lawmakers are making sanctuary cities and different things like that, and they're taking this hands-off approach with illegal immigrants, and yet then basically the border agents' hands are tied at that point. And so I don't understand why it's the exact opposite effect when it comes to cannabis.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, if a state licensed cannabis company is following the rules and doing everything by the letter of the law, which, in my experience, most of the cannabis operators are. I say most, right?
I think a solid majority. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
Solid majority. Yeah, Fed's got to keep their hands off this stuff, and it's just the way it is. Until cannabis is federally legalized, they just got to back off.
I totally agree. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but interpreting your story, Todd, it sounds like they're getting a directive from the top saying, hey, this lawsuit should be dismissed due to the merits that the fact that it's a state legal substance. Am I correct on that?
That is exactly correct.
And so do we know if this is coming directly from Tom Holman?
You know what? He was not quoted in this, so we don't know.
But it is possible, because I mean, he is the top. Yeah. He's the top dog now, as of yesterday.
Yeah.
Man.
So maybe this is, the lawsuit was filed back in October.
Yeah. We've been covering this. We've been covering this story. This is a brand new development in the saga of this New Mexico situation.
So Tom may change things, but it looks like they're going to let the feds do what they want, is what it seems like.
Well, that's kind of how it always goes. I mean, feds are always going to do that. Feds are like the honey badger, you know what I mean? Going to do what we want and just. Right. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, Todd. Man. I do feel for these companies though in New Mexico that have had their products seized. I know I've had my product seized at a border checkpoint one time, and that was just a pain in the ass. And there wasn't a resolution on it for a substantial amount of time. And like by the time you get all the product back and everything, it's already bad and it's totally trash.
Nobody wants it back.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. The only thing we wanted back was our distro van, and you know what I'm saying, and the money that was inside and whatnot. You know what I mean? The product was basically a wash at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, maybe your hero, who's in the White House now, can legally, legalize federally, and then we won't have these problems.
Well, you see what my hat says, Todd.
I can't really see it.
It says "Make cannabis great again," Todd.
Yes. No, I have one that says making weed great again.
Making weed great again. Fair enough.
Making weed great again.
Yeah. Fair enough. We are going to roll right into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back, you guys. The control tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The control tower from Highly Educated.
Right.
And he broke out of the crate. So
Well, Yarrow, we're back. Yarrow, we are back
Nice.
right now. We are back. Look at you, bro. You look like you just like rolled fresh out of bed this morning. You need some lighting over there on your side. Oh man, Yarrow's having a rough one today, you guys. He neutered his dog. I can't believe you did that to your dog. Poor dog.
Well, it's not like I did it personally, Jason. It's not like I watched a YouTube video and had him, take a shot of vodka and did it on the kitchen table.
Scalpel, please.
Did you get a moil to do the deal?
No, but I took one testicle and the other testicle. I had him dipped in brass, and then I had est friends put on either side so we can wear them as little necklaces.
All right, Yarrow, is your your camera, is it vertical? You need to have it sideways. I think you're using your phone right now, right? Yeah, there we go. That's a lot better, bro. A lot better.
You fill the screen.
Yeah, it's finally.
You're gorgeous.
Finally.
Speaking of gorgeousness, Todd, yesterday we covered an article, and the photo for the article was a topless guy with a really small pre-roll right in the crack between the two pectoral muscles. It was a great article, and it was about pre-rolls and blah, 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 blah. But the topless, just, it was a shot from the neck to the navel, and Jenny called it out as being you. It was a very fit physique.
Oh, I saw it. That was me.
Yeah, that was you.
That was Todd. That was Todd.
I like those dog walkers, those little tiny joints.
Apparently, even in January, not all the bears are in hibernation.
Of course, you would like those dumbass joints, Todd. I could. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, because he gets to test each of them.
Oh man, you guys. Well, I'm gonna roll into my story for today, you guys. That's so nice of you to join us this morning, Yarrow. Man, I'll tell you what. Senator Warren, that's right, Elizabeth Warren asks RFK Jr. to clarify positions on marijuana legalization, rescheduling, and other reforms, you guys. That's right. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat from Massachusetts and a member of the Senate Finance Committee, sent Health and Human Services Secretary nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr. a 34-page letter detailing her concerns with his nomination and asking him to reiterate his support for legalizing marijuana and other reforms. In total, Warren asked RFK Jr. to answer 175 questions ahead of his committee nomination hearing before the Finance Committee, with several involving cannabis and cannabis law. In a quote, as a presidential candidate, you said that if elected, you would legalize marijuana and use the tax revenue to fund programs for people seeking treatment pertaining to use of controlled substances, said Warren in a letter. Section 6 of the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment Expungement, better known as the MORE Act, has a provision that would require the Secretary of the HHS to make grant money available for substance use disorder. In the Senate, I'm a co-sponsor of the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, better known as the CAOA, which would provide hundreds of millions of dollars for substance use disorder treatment programs. Do you support the MORE Act and the CAOA, she asks. Warren then goes on to say, implicit in your position that marijuana should be legalized is that it should be removed from the Federal Controlled Substances Act, the CSA. There is currently a proposed rule to move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the CSA. While there are some benefits to moving marijuana away from its current placement in the Schedule 1 to the less restrictive Schedule 3, it will still remain federally illegal even if the proposed rule is finalized, end quote. She continues on in an additional quote. In August of 2023, HHS Secretary Javier Becerra announced that the agency found marijuana had accepted medical use and a low potential for abuse, and as such was recommending marijuana be rescheduled to Schedule 3. Do you agree with the HHS assessment that marijuana should be moved to Schedule 3? And if not, what specifically would you do differently? How would your different approach not run afoul of the novel approach claims through the more traditional means of establishing accepted medical use? Well, I'll tell you what, this needs to be descheduled, okay, lady? This is pumping up all this rescheduling is just totally ridiculous, but whatever. Warren also asked RFK Jr. in a quote, do you support funding for housing options for people who use drugs, including permanent supportive housing? And Warren concludes the letter by stating that HHS programs and services impact the lives of millions of Americans every day. The agency deserves a strong and capable leader who protects the health of all Americans and provides essential human services. The leader of the HHS must be a strong believer in the scientific process, and their core mission must be protecting American lives rather than flouting baseless theories or stripping away rights that put those very lives at risk. I ask that you provide answers to my questions so that the Senate and the American people can better understand how you plan to lead this agency, she said. Well, man. Oh, man. I mean, Elizabeth Warren to me is just doing a whole bunch of grandstanding in my opinion in regards with this, because this is just totally kind of out of pocket, I feel like, for her to be asking these types of questions when Robert F. Kennedy has made it very, very clear his position on cannabis, and we need a full descheduling, not any type of rescheduling at all whatsoever. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Is it grandstanding? She just wants an answer to see what's happening?
She was grandstanding. I mean, especially when you saw her question.
She wrote a letter. How do you grandstand writing a letter?
That's what she does, bro. She's a pretty good grandstander. She's pretty good at that grandstanding. Politician is not
a good grandstander.
I mean,
grandstanding sort of implies a theatrical component to it. I agree with Todd.
All politics are theatrics, Yarrow. It's called kabuki theater.
Okay, but a letter is exactly performative.
It's a 34-page letter asking him to answer 170-something questions before the hearing.
175, right? And I don't. Is that different than what other politicians have done with other cabinet nominees? I mean, is that divergent from how business, quote unquote, is or isn't getting done on Capitol Hill? I mean, I don't know the answer. I
don't personally think that all of that was. I think it was a whole bunch of extraness on her part, personally. Just my opinion. But go ahead, please proceed, Yarrow.
I mean, it's not like 175 questions were on cannabis. There were 175 questions ranging across a variety of policy topics.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to be nominated by this Senate, I would appreciate the questions in advance so that people weren't playing gotcha politics in front of C-SPAN asking questions I weren't prepared to answer.
I agree with this, but she's known that he was going to be the nominee for this position. So why did she feel the need to send it out the day before the confirmation hearing? This could have been sent out a long time ago, and she could have got adequate answers.
Was she grandstanding, or did she just deliver the questions late?
That's why I say it's grandstanding, because of the timing, you guys.
I don't know. I think anything the D's do, in your opinion, Jason, is grandstanding.
No, it's not.
Right?
It's not. There's a few Democrats that I actually like, and I think do a great job.
Oh, you got to write that down.
Congressman Lou Correa. I'm a big fan of him.
I have deep concerns about Kennedy's position for a variety of reasons. The first of which is the worms ate his brain. The second of which is he's never had a common day in his life. I mean, if we want to talk about the ruling elite, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I think we can all agree that the Kennedy clan falls into that category.
Mm-hmm.
The third is his training as an environmental attorney and the research that he's done in pursuit of understanding vaccines doesn't make him a medical professional. The fourth is he does seem like he's a few fries short of a Happy Meal. And the fifth is that, like, I mean, really, like, you watch him talk, and aside from the fact that I know he needs a Ricola to get his voice back, he's just a little not there in general. But the final thing is the way in which he went to both the Democrats and the Republicans during the campaign and said, "I'll bow out and endorse you if you give me a job." I mean, for someone to have a tongue
that's not really how it kind of went, but that's
that
cute.
is slit in the middle so that they can lick both boots at the same time, hoping to get a day job. It was a blatant demonstration that he didn't really have a North Star in terms of what he believed in, and was really more focused on having a role for himself. And so that gives me a lot of pause.
Yeah, you're right on track there, Yarrow, for sure. Here's a guy who has literally been nuts his whole life. Right? I mean, he eats bears.
I mean, it's better than eating the cats and the dogs, bro.
Yeah, they didn't catch anybody eating the cats and the dogs.
That's not true.
Problem
That's not true. There was tons of them.
Okay.
There was tons of them.
All right.
What do you have to say about all this, Jenny Beth? Elizabeth Warren grilling.
Asking him questions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to legalize and use the money to help people?
You know, I'm not opposed to that questions. The questions that I was kind of opposed to is she was trying to like backside his opinions on vaccinations and whatnot, and I personally didn't appreciate that, because anyone with a little bit of common sense knows that these vaccine manufacturers are not out for the good of the people.
Yeah, mumps is going to come back, and measles is going to come back, and polio, all those pesky vaccines.
You know which vaccines I'm talking about, Todd.
So some are good and some are not good?
Yeah, if you want to get the meningococcal vaccine, you're fine. But if you want HPV, it's a conspiracy.
Got it.
There we go. What do you have to say, Jenny Beth? Pretty quiet today.
Working.
You're working?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, okay. Really long letter. Could have been a list. Could have been an email. I don't know. What do you want, Jason?
I agree with you. Exactly. They could have, you know what I'm saying?
I think 175 questions spread out over 34 pages is exactly that, a list.
But you really think that it's appropriate to send these questions and be like, hey, we want to have these answers before the hearing? You really think that's realistic?
I think he's had a lot of time to prepare. And I think
she's had a lot of time to prepare. She probably had this sitting in her desk for months on end and just decided, oh, here, I'm going to do this now.
If I have to answer questions, I prefer to know in advance. And so it seems like there was a little advance notice. And if I was on the receiving end, I'd be appreciative.
There was no advance notice.
We're gonna go ahead and look at this list of 175 questions. And I don't know if I'm going to have time because I got a bear to eat.
I mean, have you ever had bear, Todd?
I have never had bear, no.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
Well, then shut up.
No, shut up.
I have.
You've had bear? You've had bear, Yarrow? How was it?
I've had bear fat pie. It's an old 1800s recipe where instead of using like a Crisco or a butter or margarine, bear fat is used in the crust.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How was it? Was it good? Was it tasty?
No, it was fucking disgusting.
It was terrible, huh?
Yeah, it was like I was doing my own Andrew Zimmerman like bizarre foods thing. Had to try a no thank you bite. It was very gamey.
Well, shout out to the C Word who just threw in a big old super chat who says, do we have other drugs that are not scheduled, or would marijuana be the first? And no, there are plenty of drugs that are scheduled. And in essence, I would go as far to say that cannabis is not necessarily a drug. It's just perceived as a drug and marketed as a drug because ultimately it's just a plant.
Well, you can say that about poppy also.
I mean, poppies are a plant, okay, and then you manufacture them into something different, Todd. That's a different substance.
That's a myopic view. I mean, aspirin comes from a drug, Valium comes from a drug, heroin comes from a drug, opiates come from a drug, cocaine comes from a drug. Like the idea that cannabis has a monopoly on plant medicine would be. I mean, I think we need to get a little bit more scientifical, Mr. Beck.
Man, oh man.
Scientifical.
I love a little good old scientifical, you Guys, well, we are going to keep this train rolling, you guys. We are going to roll right into Mr. Yarrow Kubrin. He's the man who looks like he just rolled out of bed, and that's probably because he's been rolling around playing with his dog all morning because he had the nerve to get him neutered. I feel so bad for your dog, Yarrow. It is none other the man from the Shire of Sebastopol. That's right, it is Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
All right. You're gonna neuter shame me.
Yeah, I can't believe you neutered your dog,
arguably,
bro.
Doing the right thing.
It was the most responsible thing I could do for this dog.
I don't know about that. Took away his hopes and dreams. His potential
his hopes and dreams.
His hopes and dreams of being a doggy daddy. It's fucked up.
Jason.
Fucked up.
It also greatly reduced his chance of having doggy nut cancer, so leave him alone, Jason.
Yeah, if he got doggy nut cancer, were you going to come and take care of him? Were you going to proxy as care provider? We need to know these things before you start lashing out.
It would have been a lot easier to deal with then.
All right, so I got to change the view here on my camera because I can't read the article sideways. I'm sorry.
Geez.
So without further ado,
Yarrow.
I know I'm ruining the production value, but the article wouldn't landscape. So, and this is a good one.
Okay.
Hot off the press, new content. Again, I'm going back to Forbes, second day. World's largest tobacco company continues silent entry into cannabis. Is Philip Morris a medical marijuana supporter? Philip Morris International, the largest tobacco company in the world by market cap, is further extending its reach into cannabis through its subsidiary, Vectura Fertin Pharma VFP. In a press release that went mostly unnoticed, the company announced this week a collaboration with Avanakana, a Canadian biopharmaceutical firm specializing in cannabinoid-based medicine. This partnership aims to advance medical cannabis research and improve accessibility in Canada by leveraging Avanakana's expertise and its MyMedica.ca platform. PMI continues to its measured pivot toward health and wellness. The collaboration between PMI's Vectura Fenton Pharma and Avacana signals a continuation of PMI's calculated strategy in the medical cannabis sector, particularly its focus on medical applications over these recreational cannabis markets. Aaron Gray, managing director of Alliance Global Partners, an investment firm highly active in the cannabis space, observes PMI has consistently shown their interest in the medical side of cannabis. Their 2016 investment in Psych Medical was medically focused, and this Avacana partnership continues in that vein. PMI's public-facing interest in cannabis has been more about the medical side than recreational or consumer products. PMI eyes the future with medical cannabis investments. PMI's deliberate focus on medical cannabis aligns with its broader strategy of research-driven innovations. Gray elaborates, this seems like a continuation of PMI's interest in medical cannabis, particularly medical operations. In 2016, it was Psych. In July 2023, they agreed to purchase the remaining shares of that company, increasing their position. There were contingencies around getting FDA approval for their devices, but that investment was also medically focused. Their partnership with Avacana appears to align with that strategy. Beyond its medical cannabis initiatives, PMI is also positioning itself for a long-term shift in consumer preferences. Gray explains, I think this is a multi-decade strategy. Usage trends among young adults are shifting. They're moving away from tobacco and alcohol and towards cannabis. Big Tobacco sees this and wants to capture that new growing consumer base. Companies like British American Tobacco have divisions like Beyond Nicotine to address these trends, and cannabis is part of that vision. This isn't just about hedging. It's about preparing for a long-term consumer shift. Dan Irons, medical director of Advisor Shares, highlights PMI's cautious approach. Big Tobacco has made numerous investments and joint ventures into the cannabis space, especially in Canada, but we've always felt that they were holding off on large additional investments until they can do so in U.S. markets following federal reform. Todd Harrison, founder of CB1 Capital, adds the tobacco and alcohol industries have been circling cannabis for some time, but the rate and pace of integration will be dictated by the regulatory landscape. PMI's approach to cannabis differs from competitors like Altria or British American Tobacco, which have taken more consumer-oriented paths. Altria made a $1.8 billion investment in Kronos Group, while BAT formed a $125 million R&D partnership with Organogram in 2023. Unlike its competitors, PMI is focused on medical cannabis as a cornerstone of its diversification strategy. For tobacco in general, most in the major players have made investments in cannabis, explains Gray. For example, Altria invested $1.8 billion. Kronos, $125. Goes on to talk about other investments and partnerships in R&D. By centering its efforts on Canada, Gray adds, when cannabis first legalized in Canada, we saw companies like Altria, Constellation Brands, and Molson Coors make significant investments or form joint ventures with cannabis firms. Many of those early moves didn't pan out as expected, but recently we've seen more targeted investments like BAT, that's British American Tobacco's partnership with Organogram. Avicanna, a key player in PMI's long-term game plan. This collaboration adds to Avicanna's history of notable partnerships. In 2023, the company took over Shoppers Drug Mart Medical Cannabis by Shoppers platform, integrating it with its MyMedica.ca ecosystem, which provides pharmacist-led support and curated medical cannabis products. Avicanna also operated out of Johnson & Johnson's incubator for years, where it focused on cannabinoid-based research and development. Additionally, its partnership with Dabon, one of the world's largest organic agribusiness, strengthens its supply chain with sustainably cultivated cannabinoids. Avicanna's selection by PMI, despite its smaller market cap compared to other cannabis companies that have received investments from tobacco giants, highlights its distinct focus on medical cannabis. The company has prioritized research and development and clinical studies over consumer-driven recreational marketplaces since its inception. It has also maintained long-term commitments to advance cannabinoid-based therapeutics and developing evidence-based solutions for patients. So this is a relatively long-winded article. It's got another 7 or 8 paragraphs. I'm not going to do what Jason did to us yesterday, reading the entire thing.
Stop it.
Yeah, we got to get to the Reader's Digest or at least slightly have it abridged. I don't want to put people to sleep. I want to educate, elevate, motivate, amplify. So what I will say before I kick this off to my other pundits, hello, Rico. Jenny, you're up on this. What I would say is, recreational cannabis seems sexier. It gets more of the mind share, I think, more of the press coverage. For me, the medical side is much more exciting. For those of us in the Emerald Triangle and Emerald Triangle adjacent, we've known that Big Tobacco was making moves silently for a very long time, including land acquisition. And what do you guys think about Big Tobacco money coming into cannabis? My opinion is it was inevitable anyway. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Yarrow because, okay, cool. They're gonna bring their billions and billions of dollars into our industry. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna stop them? You guys gonna grab a stick and a bat, and we're gonna go march and stamp our feet like we do everything else and throw a hissy fit? We can't really stop them.
Gonna hire Luigi?
It's been happening. It's whatever. Philip Morris has held property up in Humboldt, I believe, for a very long fucking time. So Yarrow probably sold it to him. Shit, it's happening.
That's fair. Also, too, they have invested a lot of money in Israel as well.
Mm-hmm. Which means they might have better technology than we do now.
They probably do.
Here's the thing: when you have any kind of large conglomerate coming into an industry that has typically been held by legacy type people and people who have passed down generational knowledge in the subject matter, right? You can find so much on the internet, you can find whatever, but it takes someone from the inside to look at that big fat check and be like, all right, I'll hand them the keys to the fucking kingdom, right? Same thing with the federal government. I've had some breeders that I know who are like, I'm just going to fucking sell them all the genetics. Well, going to take somebody like that for them to truly get every piece of the puzzle. And, let's just go ahead and acknowledge that we're not always the most loyal group of fucking thieves out here. So somebody's going to do it. Not me, but somebody's going to do it.
Yarrow, I've been watching this one very closely for a couple of years now. And they've been talking about this shit, man. I believe it was almost a year ago to date when Philip Morris had their call when they had to write off the whole Juul investment thing. everything, and they said specifically just a small footnote on that multi-billion-dollar loss on the Juul investment that they had, that they're going to be putting forth about a small drop in the bucket, $5 billion worth of R&D into the health and wellness arena.
Health and wellness.
So $5 billion drop in the bucket is bigger than the biggest cannabis company right now. Like this is nothing for them. This is just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try out a new hobby, and they will dominate. So,
well, they've always been stalwarts for health and wellness, so it makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean they wrote the book, man. They wrote the book on this kind of shit, and it is the era of spin. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Several years ago, it was in the news that they were buying up all this land in California in order to grow their boof weed.
Yeah, we are officially in the era. We are officially in the era of spin. Jason, would you?
No, we were in the era of spin for the last 4 years. Now we are in the era of truth.
Oh, please.
And Todd, even though every cannabis flower that comes out of California might not be the best in the world, I don't think you can use the word boof and California in the same sentence.
Yeah,
there's plenty of boof in California, Yarrow. There's plenty of boof.
Plenty of boof.
Plenty.
I refuse to acknowledge it.
You can refuse all you
We're
want.
the land of milk and honey and trichomes.
You can choose to be wrong all you want, Yarrow, but I will guarantee you there is plenty of boof in the state of California.
Agreed.
There's plenty of boof in the state of Nevada too. Don't get it twisted, Todd.
There's plenty of boof here for sure.
Plenty of boof in all these states.
Also,
it's a boof market for the most part.
Oh, that's what
what comes up. What comes up for me is there's hundreds of different cannabinoids, and I remember listening to this guy in a white coat with a PhD in Israel at a scientific conference talk about how the combination and ratios of different cannabinoids, as well as whether it was from flower or extracts or different extract technologies, as well as delivery form factors, all of those played a factor in efficacy. And when I realized I could barely solve for 3 or 4 variables in calculus class in college, that these people were trying to solve for 100 plus variables, I realized it's going to, and they said it's going to take 5 to 7 years before we even start to really crack the code on medical efficacy. I realized it's going to take billions of dollars. And so I think we as an industry can lament the maturation, which includes consolidation and big business and corporations. And I don't think big tobacco is somehow some benevolent being trying to come into medical cannabis to solve the world's problems, but it's going to take billions of dollars to figure this out. And if you don't have the billions of dollars or the motivation to spend those billions of dollars to figure it out, then it doesn't evolve much further faster. And so I welcome the money into the space in so much as if it accelerates the curve. There are still people in my immediate family with cancer. I still believe there's promise and hope in medical cannabis for a variety of ailments, including really big and important ones. And until we've got that figured out, somebody's going to have to write those checks, and it ain't going to be me.
But you have some good points there, Yarrow.
Go ahead. Sorry, Rico.
No, I was just going to ask him, was the professor that you were talking about, was his name Gandalf?
I mean, Yarrow, that's funny. My question in regards with this is Yarrow, I do agree with you to some degree, but do you really think that big tobacco is concerned at all with the medical uses of cannabis?
Yeah, I do, because I think they can make money off it, just like big pharma makes money off of drugs that are effective, and whether we're curing or
but here's the thing: is that there's
cholesterol or
there's
high blood pressure.
If you know anything from the health industry, you know that there's no money in a cure.
Cannabis isn't a cure. It's something they can sell. They can sell us, and they can put their own
Jason,
additives in
when
it.
people are dying of cancer, they'll spend anything to survive if they can.
I agree with that. I totally
They'll
agree
put
with that.
additives in it, get people hooked on that, and then have some great marketing campaigns to make it seem like they've been here to help us out ever since the jump, man.
And the other thing also is you find these drugs that like they were developed for one thing, and all of a sudden they find out that they do something else, and so they have an alternative use for it. So as they explore the medical efficacies of cannabis, it's very likely, like any other drug development, that they're going to be trying to solve for something over here, find out that it works for something over here, end up addressing a totally different market. That becomes a total different profit driver. And so, yeah, I think the motivations are less important than the outcomes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, we're going to roll right into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Are you a business that's suffering from the hyperinflation that is plaguing America today? We have the solution for you. That's right. Patriot Business Financing. Head on over to www.patriotbfc.com and apply for a loan up to $2 million. Any state, any industry, even the cannabis industry, the CBD industry, as well as the industrial hemp fiber industry. Secure up to $2 million today, and make sure that when you apply, you tell Paul you said hi from High at 9.
And he was 1 year old.
We are back, you guys. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button, just like Yarrow smashed his dog's nuts off. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.hyat9news.com.
Nothing is sacred. Nothing's confidential with this group.
I mean, you bring it up. You know what I'm saying, Yarrow? Yarrow, you got to turn your camera again back now. I mean, you bring it up. You know what I'm saying, Yarrow? Yarrow, you got to turn your camera again back now. Where are we getting that audio feed from?
I've turned into Jenny.
Now
I'm Rico.
No, I turned into Jenny.
I mean, are we done with this commercial? We're back.
I thought y'all were getting rid of.
Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9 gummy line? That's right, we are bringing to you Parody Gummy. These vegan gummies are manufactured in a safe harbor facility, so you know they're gonna be clean and safe, and they're not gonna give you any of the runaround. Coming in, we have 3 amazing flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night. And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the Pineapple Bad Hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today. And we are back, you guys.
Communication is key.
Yeah, we're back. We are back.
Keys open doors.
Mm-hmm. You ready, Rico?
All right, you gotta mow that grass, big dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I was born ready. You want to introduce Jenny, or you want me to
You
introduce
ain't got to get ready. You ain't got to get ready if you were born ready. You know what I'm saying?
Boy. Oh boy, here we go.
Up next. It's the melanated and very opinionated mouth from the South here to break us off with our first story of the second half of today's show. None other than the founder of Kind Cannabis Consulting and Justice Serves 501c3. And you guys had a huge day yesterday, right? Justice was served for a bunch of folks in the cannabis sector. Jenny Beth Dills, am I right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Bidens are in the cannabis sector, but I wouldn't be fucking surprised. But they all got pardoned, so moving it along. So anyway, my story today
just saying some positivity, right?
My story today is interesting, Todd. I think you'll appreciate it. Because the rise of counterfeit cannabis edibles is posing a significant challenge to the legal cannabis market in the United States. But advancements in spectroscopy technology may offer a solution. As the demand for cannabis edibles grows, valued at over $8 billion in 2022, the issue of counterfeit products made with synthetic chemicals is endangering consumer safety and trust. Excuse me. The winds are endangering my allergies. Cannabis edibles such as gummies, chocolates, and beverages rely on active cannabinoids like THC and CBD. However, counterfeit products often misrepresent potency or substitute synthetic cannabinoids, creating health risks. With federal regulation lacking and only local oversight available, fraudulent products have become a growing concern. That's where spectroscopy comes in. Traditional methods like gas chromatography have been valuable, but newer technologies, including portable infrared and Raman spectroscopy devices, are emerging as game changers. These tools offer fast, accurate, and user-friendly molecular analysis, enabling on-site testing to identify counterfeit edibles and packaging more efficiently. PitCon 2025, the annual conference on laboratory science, will showcase these advancements. Among the highlights, Brooke Kamarath of the University of New Haven will lead a session titled Combating Counterfeit Cannabis Edibles with Laboratory Portable Spectroscopy. She'll explore how portable devices like the Light Lab HPLC cannabis analyzer can detect counterfeit products and improve enforcement efforts. Experts at PitCon will also address the broader implications of counterfeit cannabis products, including their ties to organized crime and their impact on public health. Richard Kukrabi, a leading consultant, will discuss the deployment of portable instruments for field analysis in his talk, Detection and Analysis of Counterfeit Pharmaceutical and Cannabis Products via Portable Instruments in the Field. With consumer safety and market integrity at stake, advancements in spectroscopy are critical to regulating cannabis products and maintaining trust in the legal market. PitCon 2025 will provide a platform for researchers, regulators, and industry leaders to collaborate and share solutions. So, I mean, this is interesting. Todd, I have to go do something for my dog right now. So I'll let Todd break down the difference in mass spec and the different ways that you can detect potency, because some of them are by weight, some of them are the machine fires at the same level, whether it's real or synthetic cannabinoids. I'm going to mute up because what the fuck?
Mickey Hart, man. Everyone's it's a dog's day apparently today.
Let's have a bark off.
I think he's got a shit. We'll be back.
Sumo, who's that?
Oh man.
Sumo, come on, bark.
There are several different new machines out on the market that claim to do what a HPLC can do, which stands for high pressure liquid chromatography.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing as accurate as an HPLC or a UPLC.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a few,
except
portable...
for OPP.
And HNIC.
We see what you did to your dog, Yarrow. We see that.
Todd, clarify what the HPLC or UPLC is good for testing, because it's not the best testing instrument for every test, right?
No, it is good for testing cannabinoids. Certainly, they used to use gas chromatography for cannabinoid analysis, but liquid chromatography.
It's not so good. You have to heat it up.
That's right. So liquid works better and is the most accurate way to test your cannabinoids. There are a couple other, like I was mentioning, companies out there. There's one called Orange Photonics, who also uses spectroscopy, and they are getting better over the years. When they first came out about 8 years ago, we did a side-by-side comparison with them in our lab using our UPLC and theirs.
Yeah, I remember in Colorado. I remember,
but they were mobile.
No,
so that was their value prop, right? You could put it in a Pelican case and go check. That's
exactly right. No, that's exactly right.
It's kind of like merging the two technologies of like TLC and HPLC, kind of. It's like the light lab is pretty accurate though. Shout out Friday Ventures, Noah Novello. He's doing all the lysergamides and tryptamine testing in Colorado right now, and he's within 1%, 2% max relative standard deviation from an HPLC at the Colorado State Lab for environment and food, their testing lab, the CDPHE lab. He's like 1 to 2% within their chromatograms that are coming out of their machines. So those instruments are really accurate, but of course the only element that's always variable is the human who's doing the testing.
I was just going to say that.
That's the variable, right?
The preparation. Hey, look, the instrumentation, the science could be fucking spot on. The humans in there are going to be the only variables that can give us any kind of skewed information. It's something as simple and as nuanced as like, hey, when I'm pipetting this sample into a test tube or into a vial, if I get any on the sides of the vial and not all at the end, and the solution doesn't fill up to the top of the vial, well, there's some of my sample that's still there. So those results are going to be a little skewed.
So
homogeneity is the hardest part of testing, and the way and more difficult for those portable units because they don't spend the time to actually homogenize the product and to shake it properly and to mix it properly before it goes onto the instrument.
Well, I mean, they do have an agitator, a mechanical agitator. It's not like they're shaking it by hand. But I mean, you're right. I mean, look, you have to have a good process.
They
You
got a
have to have a good
shake weight.
procedure. You have to have a good procedure for how to do these things, and that's always where the variability comes, is that procedure. From method to method, it's all the ways the prep. That's kind of the culprit there.
It sounds to me, Saman, like you are advocating to remove the human component from the testing procedure and just have AI do this whole process.
Don't come after me.
No, and speaking of agitators, I'll be one today. I think anybody will do a test as long as we don't have RFK manning the test tube. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm not going to open up any
What's
of
the
those
matter with
test
RFK
tubes
manning
there.
the test tube, bro?
You guys are silly. Okay, anyways, I want to just say one thing. Big shout out to our boy Charlie Steinberg. Charlie Steinberg, Herbal Synergy, was one of the first lab testing companies in America doing any kind of testing, and he was using a GC, Todd, to do all that testing. And he was also doing our first residual solvent testing from our BHO hash that we were making in 2010 in Colorado. So 15 years
that you
ago,
could use a GC. That's great for
that definitely. But we were doing all this a long time ago. This was circa 15 years ago. So big shout out, Charlie. Big shout out to the early movers and the early adopters of efficacy for their products. So much love. This is a great story. Awesome.
And you are right about the human element of that, Saman, because if you're an extract, for instance, an extract that's in a test tube, if it's not properly homogenized in that test tube, right? Or you're not scraping from the side and you're only scraping from the middle, and all of those make a difference. And also calibrated scales are really one of the most important things. Like our scales at our lab get calibrated every day by our chemists and twice a year by the manufacturer, right, to make sure that we're accurate. But I've literally walked into a production facility and seen a scale like up like this, like on a book or on on something, and they couldn't figure out why they can't meet their projections, right? So,
a decimal place makes a big difference. A decimal place makes a big difference.
That's why the decimal's there. It makes a big difference. That's right.
This is why. This is why.
That's right. If you didn't have a period, you never know when the end of a sentence was, Saman.
That's what he said.
Again.
That's a really good point. I don't think he does know where the end of a sentence is anyway.
Well, it's because it's a roll on because he's still trying to roll that blunt, Todd. That's you know what I'm saying.
He's just passing time.
The blunt I'm planning now for fucking next year MJ BizCon. You guys are gonna.
He's starting to roll right now, Todd. Oh man, I guess I do want to send a big shout out for all of the testing advancements and pushing the edge that Catalyst is pushing with this Cat 4 thing with the vape carts and whatnot, and give them a big weed for the people, you guys. And on that, we are going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Damn you, Todd.
And we
Come
are
on.
back, you guys. We are back, you guys. Oh, man. We are going to roll right into the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, who had a big sales meeting today, but has a lot still to say. That's right. It is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Yeah, Jason. I get to hear the applause
Don't
today.
even know it.
I get to hear that applause. I like that, man. So I'm gonna try to keep it. I was late today, so I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible. But my article,
You're going to keep it Yarrow?
Kate Lavin.
I see what you did there.
I gotta know where the cutoff is because both of y'all short as fuck. So, like, I don't know.
Picture from
I
Yoko
don't know.
Ranch at an Emerald Cup party. We're standing arm in arm, and we do look like brothers from another mother.
I feel like a white person trying to say like, oh, I'm more black than somebody who's lighter skinned. Like I don't know what's right or what's wrong. But since we are in the era of spin, I'll just say it and not care about your feelings, short motherfuckers. Anyways, my article.
Neither one of them can ride the ride.
What kind of ride we talking
God,
about?
I am the ride.
Oh boy, pause. Pause.
Anyways, my article's from Kate Lavin from MJ Biz Daily, and the article highlighted opportunities for new cannabis brands very interestingly in mature markets. For what it's worth, she only spoke with cannabis executives in Colorado, not in the brand glut capital of the world, California, where I think she'd get a very different response. But Lavin put an emphasis on innovation, differentiation, consumer-focused strategies, all of which can be seen as universal. And despite industry consolidation trends, she believes that these 3 Colorado companies should be looked at as case studies for newcomers looking to succeed. And they all seem to be in the infused gummies lane, Jason, offering unique value propositions. Number 1, Ripple. Ripple's known for its innovative products, and they launched the affordable Ripped gummies in 2022, focusing on full dose edibles and competitive pricing. While others seem to go upscale, they went down, and they seem to be winning the race by understanding production costs and prioritizing product quality over market expenses. They quickly gained market share, and the strategy included fast acting technology and a commitment to delivering value to consumers. Number 2, Dialed In. Specializing in small batch solventless rosin-infused gummies, Dialed In differentiated itself with unique co-branded labels and a scarcity model that drove demand. Hype it up, hype it up, hype it up, dump it. The company's collaborative partnerships with cultivators allowed it to scale production and maintain premium quality. And the last one she mentioned was Flower Union. Launched in late 2024, their gummies stand out for their whole plant cannabis flavor. I don't know. I'm buying gummies. I want them to taste like weed too. I don't know. Maybe they need to each their own. Visible flecks of bud and natural ingredients. The brand focused on consumer education, emphasizing the terpene-rich taste and consistent effects enabled by Azuca's whole plant activator. Expansion plans include entering New Jersey's white hot cannabis market with tailored labeling and partnerships. While the article underscored that while national consolidation looms, new brands with innovative products, consumer-driven pricing, and effective partnerships can carve out successful niches in established markets. While the article was called "There's Room for New Cannabis Brands Even in Mature Markets," I do think a better title would have been something like how these 3 Colorado gummy players thrive in a graveyard full of dead peer brand bodies. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News, and it's a new era, y'all. Let's talk about it.
Maybe it's because of all the corn syrup, Rico.
They're just trying to make gummies great again, man. Why are you hating?
I'm all about make gummies great again. You know what I'm saying? That's why people should check out Parody Gummy at www.parodygummy.com.
I mean, separate from your biases, because I have not tried Parody Gummy, so I don't want to do a parody of you. But I will say,
because you could get some of these Raspberry Riots, bro, complete with all the free J6ers on the label.
I was just going to say their expiration date is probably January 6th, but what I was going to say is that
if I smash a whole bag of those Parody Gummies, the J6 specials, does it mean I could beat the fuck out of a cop too? Can I do that, Jason?
No, you can't do that.
Oh, you can't because you're a black guy, but a white dude could.
Maybe.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say is this article talks about the full plant extract and little pieces of the plant. And I just have to say, as somebody who has consumed enough gummies and edibles to have an opinion, that does not sound enrolling to me at all. That sounds like code for we swept the huffle duffle off the trim room floor, put it in, and tried to make it sound extra hippie and natural. The best edible brands that I've seen in the markets that I've been in, making really elevated, fun, cool, tasty edibles, are not doing that. So that gave me a little little nails on chalkboard moment when you read that. I was concerned.
Right?
I mean, it's one thing if you're having chocolate and you got these little cocoa nibs in it.
Maybe they're like the house pre-rolls of gummies.
I'm not trying to get pot leaves in my teeth and like have a spinach moment. I don't know about that. I'm a little concerned.
Colorado does it different, right, Saman? No.
Colorado does do it different. That's
unmute,
true.
Unmute,
yeah,
Saman.
You're on mute, Saman.
We've been doing it. Let me tell you, where do you think the 10 milligrams per piece comes from?
Yeah,
that
you
comes
guys
from
fucked
us.
the whole game up with that.
That comes from us in Colorado, baby. You could thank us.
You
know,
can
exactly.
fuck the whole game up
love
with
us or
us.
hate us.
Yeah.
We were the first ones to have the
that's
direct
true.
boot
That's
on
true.
the back of the head, and we had to perform. And we had to perform in a way that was gonna be able to unlock this opportunity for many other operators.
You know,
I don't know. I can't tell you how many brands have existed and have gone out of existence in the history of time. But what I can tell you is that when you're a good operator, you have integrity, when you give a shit about what you're putting in your product, you're going to have a successful brand. If you don't,
they have a farm in Colorado called that, Simone.
Yeah, well, Colorado or not, it doesn't matter. If you have the convictions to start a brand, you better check all the boxes. Don't just put out an amazing product with amazing packaging, because that's not going to get you very far. You're going to have to, be creative, and you're going to have to, cater to the community and cater to the customers that want your product, because you have a lot of competition. So,
and you got to make sure that it's tested properly too, right?
Yeah, well, you have to test it, right? But what does it boil down to? It boils down to price band. It boils down to the accessibility of that product. And we talk about this a lot. Jason and I debate this weekly. But I feel in my heart of hearts that no matter what, there's a certain level of production and product that's happening now. It's not this discrepancy that's like you have some operators here and some operators here. Everything is evening out. So what's the difference maker now? I think that's the question everybody has to ask themselves. But I'll
tell you what the difference maker is, Saman, is the bottom line, is whether or not your shit is selling or not.
I'm a big fan of consistency. If your product gives me a different feeling every time I have it, I don't know if that's the product for me. So,
dude, that's variety, dude. That's the DE. That's the real DEI right now.
Oh, DEI is dead, bro.
You need some diversity in your effect.
DEI, they had a funeral for it yesterday.
No, DEI is not dead, and the concepts behind it aren't dead. But what Saman is saying, and separate from Rico's jokey joke, is consistency for manufacturing is really the hallmark of a brand and the team and the way in which they bring that product to market. I completely agree, and I think it's nowhere more important than in edibles, where especially dosing and flavor, it's not easy to get it the same way that every time. I totally agree with him.
Consistency.
No, unless you're doing homogeneity testing on your batches, it's tough.
I don't know what you have against smart gay guys, Todd, but you need to cut it out on this show.
Now that Trump is back in office, man, there will be no homogeneity testing.
Whoa.
We have heterogeneity testing.
Well, I mean, he did.
There's only two.
He did reaffirm that there's only two genders. That part is true.
It's either boof or dank.
I'm not mad at that either. I'm not mad at it's either good or bad. I'm not mad at that. It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Anything the orange clown says.
Oh, stop! You're pretty orange today, Todd.
I'm a little orange today.
Yeah,
I think the saturation's off on your camera, bro.
Yeah, he's been out in the suntan booth. You know what I'm saying?
No, he's been making Vegas great again.
That's right. I'm mad at
Look
that.
at that. He's instantly unread.
That's how I keep his text messages unread.
Oh boy, you guys.
Oh, I see what you did there.
All right, Rico. Let's roll into Saman.
I'm glad to hear everybody still on that gummy shit. I'm a flower guy.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? You could also, choose, you know what I'm saying, to be a bad hombre from Parody Gummy also.
There you go.
Yes, the pineapple flavored infusion, yes.
Those gummies here in Vegas are awesome.
Yeah.
Up next, in closing this out, is a fellow dope dad and 15+ year industry vet, award-winning solvent extraction pioneer, and a current focus on helping menopausal women hit the play button once again. Saman Razani.
Hello. Welcome again to another great Tuesday, a fantastic Tuesday over here.
Yes.
At High at 9. My apologies for having a little work this morning, but people got to get the bag. Now that our president's back in office, we can all restart the commerce again.
Exactly.
My story comes out of Newsbreak today. One of our favorite Midwestern states, Oklahoma. Call it Smokelahoma.
Not Toklahoma, huh?
No.
Okay.
Because it's smoking. It's definitely on fire. Okay?
Oh man.
So Oklahoma lawmaker files bill to establish employment protections for legal cannabis consumers. Legislation to establish employment protections for legal consumers in cannabis has been pre-filed in the Oklahoma legislature. Oklahoma State Representatives Forrest Bennett has pre-filed, who's a Democrat, by the way, has pre-filed House Bill 1714 for the state's 2025 legislative session. Set to begin on February 3rd, the measure would provide employment protections for individuals who lawfully consume marijuana. Currently, that would apply to medical marijuana patients, but it would extend to recreational consumers if the state were to legalize it down the road. House Bill 1714 prohibits employers from discriminating against job applicants based on their lawful off-the-job use of marijuana. Specifically, it addresses the results of drug tests that indicate non-psychoactive cannabis metabolites, ensuring such findings cannot be grounds for denying employment. The bill, however, includes several exemptions for safety-sensitive positions and those requiring federal government background checks or security clearances. Under the proposed legislation, employers can still maintain drug-free workplace policies and conduct scientifically valid drug tests for impairment, post-accident investigations, or suspicion of substance use on the job. The measure also clarifies that testing for cannabis is permitted if required by state or federal law, but employers may not access cannabis-specific test results unless the position is exempted. If approved, the bill would take effect on November 1st, 2025. And that's the story here from Newsbreak. So, I guess it's good, but ultimately, is this just the grounds mounting against an individual that they don't like to potentially fire them? Maybe still. And Oklahoma has interesting regulations when it comes to consumption of cannabis. You can smoke cannabis anywhere in Oklahoma that you can smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's on the street, whether it's in a smoker area that's designated at a restaurant, even, it's potentially okay to do that. So I don't know how this is going to shape up for just general employees, but it sounds like if you're working for the state, it sounds like if you're working for a security firm, something like that you have to have a background check where you have to carry a weapon. You're still gonna be precluded from smoking cannabis, even on your off time. But we'll see how that shapes up. Love to hear what you all have to say. Smokelahoma, where you at?
But I mean, isn't this a good start, Saman, for employees to be able to, the average employee?
I mean, it sounds like it's a good protection, but is it a big deal? I guess is the better question.
I think it's definitely a big deal because people lose their jobs for stuff like that.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Are there people losing their jobs for smoking cannabis? Are there cases that somebody is being unlawfully fired or let go from their position because of their extracurricular cannabis usage as an adult or as a medical patient?
Well, I mean, we've covered a number of different stories over our time here at High at 9 News in relation to these types of instances, and so I'm willing to say that yes, there is these types of things happening.
It could be.
Yeah,
I mean,
in Nevada, they stopped testing for it for jobs, so no testing for cannabis consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Nevada.
Yeah, I think that there's a double standard. I think the standard is, hey, it's cannabis, it's bad because it's a drug. But all these pharmaceutical drugs that people take that impair them, I mean, what about that? When are we going to start testing for that? When are we going to start?
What's crazy? Like, I can speak to this because she got the job and everything. But
here we go.
Yeah. No, we live in California, and my wife still got tested for that shit,
Mm-hmm.
and she had to take a detox and all that stuff. We thought that was dead here. But
Mm-hmm.
apparently it is not. So
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an antiquated thing at this point. I think the last time I took a drug test was for like a probation thing when I was like 18 or 19 years old. So I don't really know. I haven't had to deal with this. So maybe there are some people that had to recently. We'd love to hear from you. But is this antiquated? Is this a good way to see if somebody's a good employee or not? I don't think so. I think it's the proof's in the pudding. If they are showing up, they're working hard.
I mean,
No,
I've never.
Yeah, it's not. It's not good. I mean, the chances are you are, just like you said, Saman. The chances are you're prescribed something by your doctor that's way more harmful for you, and it probably has a greater effect on you doing your job correctly than smoking weed and popping positive on something that's not going to be out of your system for 3 to 6 weeks.
Certainly,
Mm.
definitely.
Keep it popping.
That's a fact right there.
Keep it popping.
If you're allowed to take opiates at work, right, you should be out to.
Right.
You should be able to go smoke a joint.
I totally agree with that.
Straight up.
I totally agree with that. Exactly right.
Yeah,
And I just wish they weren't continuing to do this carve out for government employees. I mean, government employees, it's a thankless task. They make less money than the private sector. It can be noble service.
They get better benefits though.
Well, because they get benefits in this day and era. You go bankrupt if you get cancer most of the time. I mean, so you've heard me rail about how we don't have a social safety net that could make America even greater. But this carve out for government employees, again, it's like, well, if you're good enough to do a job that's in private enterprise, why the carve out for government employees with cannabis? Do we think you become a traitorous treason and you're going to start spilling secrets to our enemies because you had a really potent blunt on a Saturday night?
If it was my blunt,
we literally have a felon in the White House, and you can't smoke weed. Right? You can't get a job if you're smoking weed.
But in the bathroom, you can blow rails all you want and leave your baggie in there. You know.
You know what? That was the funniest clapback, Saman, because it was a data-driven clapback. It was factual. It was partisan, but news-based. I have to say that was the best line of the show, and I want to push back. I also want to push back against the left talking point about having a felon in the White House. For my own reasons, I don't think that the person who is coming into office is going to be a great leader or was a great leader. But I think we also need to shy away from acting like having a felony makes you a disqualified individual. And I just think that that's a simplified talking point, that if you've ever had a criminal record, like unless you're a rapist or a child molester, we need to stop acting like having incurred a felony is a disqualification for sensitive high-level jobs. There are many reasons why Trump may not be qualified. The obvious is, Michael Flynn and that choice for that position.
Easy there.
But the fact that he's a 34-time felon, I would tell Trump he needed to try harder, start younger, and get as many felonies as the rest of us.
I thought the way to tell if they were a good felon or not is if they were a felon but didn't do no telling.
I resemble that remark.
You go rhyming again.
Just saying.
If you're a felon, you can always get right back up again, right?
That's right. I mean, it's America, bro.
So being a felon should be taken off of job applications.
I totally agree with that. There's a whole ban the box. Yeah, there's a whole ban the box thing that I'm in total support of.
So there's a lot of reasons for people not to want to support Trump, but his felony convictions, to me, and the fact that he's a felon is probably the lowest one.
Not to mention, he had one of the greatest mugshots of all time.
Really?
Yeah, it was better than Gary Busey's. And Gary Busey, I think, had the prize prior.
I thought it was kind of lame. Yeah, he could have done better.
You're just a hater, bro. You're a hater. He had the look, that stare, that.
Yeah, it's fucking lame as fuck.
His hair was all in place.
Could have done better.
You guys are crazy.
Do you think that's why they had the inauguration indoor? Was it windy?
No.
The only person
I don't buy none of that for a second.
The only person who has a better mugshot than Gary Busey is Nick Nolte.
Interesting.
He's got a good one.
Interesting.
No, they had the inauguration indoors because of the weather in DC.
That is not true at all. That's 100% total bullshit. They told the people that.
That's what the administration said, Jason.
Yeah, that's total bullshit. I don't buy that shit for a second.
That's
The
what
reason-
they said,
The
Jason.
reason
I know
they
that's
had
what they
it-
said, Jenny
That's
Beth. I
an
agree with
official
you
statement.
that that's
So
what
since
they
you know
said.
everything better, I don't know why they haven't hired
I
you
agree
yet.
with you that
Imagine.
that's what they said, but there's not a bone in my body that believes that is the truth. To me, I believe that there was 100%.
Because it's limier green and it tastes better.
No. I believe that there was credible threats that were put out there, and so they did that as a security precaution, and yet at the same time mentioned the weather in relation to, so in that way they didn't get all the supporters all aggravated and everybody else all aggravated and whatnot. But I talked to a couple people in cybersecurity, and they said that there was definitely some things going on, and so I think it was a matter of national security why they had it inside. That's just my personal opinion.
They were definitely speculating that, so you didn't have to get that from your IT guy, Jason. But all right,
I didn't get it from my IT guy.
Crowd size.
Jason's always right, and he's always going to be righter than you, Jenny Beth.
That's because I'm the highest Republican, Rico.
Guys, when you're tapped in, when you're with the fabric of the existence in DC right now, you're in there. You're the guy. Okay, that's Jason. Let's all just can our guy just cook, please? Can you let our guy cook?
The problem is that they don't want to let me cook. They don't want to eat. They just all want to live in a socialist environment.
Well, you know what tends to happen to presidential chefs in the first place.
Yeah, under Democrat administrations, that's different.
Anyway, we got 4 more years of that. We got 4 more years of that shit. We'll see how long we have.
So great. I'm so excited, you guys.
I got the meme of a lifetime. We're gonna cut up the Beverly Hills Ninja where he's the hibachi chef. Oh, that's gonna be Jason's new intro.
Oh, God.
I think I was racist. But thank you all for joining us for yet another episode of High at 9 News. You can catch us live weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to the super fans getting their comments posted live on the big screen. Who we have today, Jason? I saw a couple in here.
Oh, yeah. The C word. The C word threw out a couple of them today.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
appreciate
big thank
that
you, the C word. Yes.
Always.
Much appreciated, bro. We super appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. That's going directly to Trump's inaugurational fund, because everybody just donate to that shit, and maybe you too can get a pardon. Big shout out to all the rest of the live audience in the house today too, and online supporters catching us across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as developing cannabis industry, to our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bring this much needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table. Our production team, Cloud Media Partners, all the sponsors keeping the lights on and AV struggles to a minimum. Thank you to who we have? Do we have Millie in the house today? We got Anthony.
We got Anthony out there in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Lead for the people.
Yes. As always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason why we show up to read these stories every single day. Thank you as well. It has been Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. The show is over. You've all been blessed with the top industry headlines. Hope it's enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News, cannabis industry's #1 daily news show. And today we're going to pop things out to the lone woman on the show today, because you know what? Jason tried to belittle you, and I don't agree with
How
that.
did I do
I don't agree with that.
Right.
I don't agree with that. You know, because
Jason?
women's voices matter. Even though Jason Beck wants to put you in your place and all that stuff, I'm not with it. I got your back, Jason.
Just because she was misinformed didn't mean I was putting her in her place. I was just informing her of the correctness.
To be fair, Jason, if the administration's press team wanted that to be what was released, I don't know why you would go against your administration and try to throw your own.
Because I'm all about the truth. I'm all about truth.
Hey, I know something you don't fucking know.
I'm all about truth.
The national security team doesn't want you to know, but let me throw it out on fucking High at 9 News. That makes a whole buttload of sense.
High at 9 News,
But
baby.
anyway, long story short, Jason has learned his lesson today. I'm sure everybody, I appreciate you guys for sticking in. Thanks for sticking with us through all the tech troubles. It seems like we're on a better. We've made the show great again.
Yes.
2025. But no, thank you guys. Just be nice to each other and love him or hate him. You guys, that's your president. We are all a country, so we all should be praying and hoping for the best from our leadership, whether you're pissing in your pants about it or not.
Fair enough.
There
we go. Run this outro,
Destruction,
Anthony.
American Carnage Part 2.
Oh,
are you ready?
Did you guys see that?
embrace it with love.
Hey, Anthony, run the
Dave
outro.
4
Chappelle?
more years of chaos. Yeah.
Did you guys see Dave Chappelle's thing on Saturday Night Live on Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty powerful. Palisades to Palestine, I thought it was a pretty good
Run the
call
outro,
for
Anthony.
global peace and talking about displaced people across.